Hello guys, welcome back to APDaga's Dumbbox, and this is Daga. And in this video, we are going to cover what is MongoDB and how to connect a MongoDB, how to access MongoDB using Python. So this will be a two video, because in first video I'll talk about how to set up a cluster on MongoDB, what is MongoDB, and in next video I'll show you how to write a Python code and connect to that MongoDB cluster, create new databases, table, and some basic operations on those NoSQL database. So without wasting time, let's start. So I'm sharing my screen, a whiteboard. So let's start with what is MongoDB. So MongoDB is a NoSQL database. And what is NoSQL database? Let's talk about that. So in our earlier video, we have already seen something like MySQL, which is SQL database. So whenever we talk about SQL database, it is always in the form of, let's say, some tabular structure. It will always have some table. The format of the table will be like this: some columns and some rows. So whenever you want to store data, let's say you want to store data for employees or student, and you know there will be a fixed number of columns for each student or each employee, maybe their name, then ID, then their address, age, and so on, their marks, some mobile number, and this kind of detail. So where you are sure that for each row, like for each employee or each student, all the data required is almost same: their name, their age, address, and so on. The columns are fixed, right? So in that case, you use SQL database, which is nothing but a tabular structure, table, right? But if you talk about real life scenario, maybe if you are aware with, you are definitely aware of Instagram, Facebook, then YouTube, right? If you look there are n number of users, right? But each user behave in a different way. Okay, maybe one user is very much active, he keep on commenting, liking, and so on. But there are some other user who doesn't do those kind of activities. They doesn't do any kind of comments or so on. So for each comment to store, you had, one second guys. So okay, I was talking about Facebook and those things. So one user is very much active, but another user is not, and the activities are very different from user to user. So in that case, it doesn't make sense to create some tabular structure to store that data. Let's say one user is creating doing 500 comments. So in that case, you have to create 500 different columns saying comment 1, comment 2, comment 10, so on. But other user is not doing that. Other user is posting videos, maybe 500 videos. So again, you have to create 500 more columns: video 1, video 2, video 3. But other different users are not making use of that. So in that case, you don't go with this tabular structure. Then you have to follow different structure. You might be familiar with dictionary. So there you have, for each user, you will create another dictionary. For user 2, you will create another dictionary, right? So whatever user 1 is doing, similarly, according to that, you will create keys and values, like the parameter, maybe video 1 is parameter, and the link for that video 2, then link for that video, then comment 1, then its comment, and so on. If user 2 is behaving differently, here I will not create video 1, video 2. Maybe his like 1 and the link for where the post where he clicked the like button, and so on. So it is nothing but a key value pair, just like a dictionary. You might have seen JSON file, almost similar structure you will find it here, and that's why we call it NoSQL. And don't get confused, NoSQL doesn't mean no SQL. It is like not only SQL. Okay, not only SQL. You can store SQL like this tabular kind of data in this NoSQL, and you can store more than that as well. So that's why we call it NoSQL. From this, you got the idea what NoSQL means, right? So let's go back to our Jupyter notebook. So now I'll show you how to create a MongoDB server. Okay. So for that, just go to Google, search search MongoDB. Click on this link, and I'll tell you you can create MongoDB cluster or database in two ways. First one on the cloud and second one on your local machine. So in this video, I will talk about how to create MongoDB cluster on cloud. So here you can click on this try free, but since I have already done the sign up process, I'll click on sign in. I'll try to do sign in using Google, and your screen might be a little bit different than mine, but it will be almost same. You will get the idea what you should click on. I'll click on login. Here you might see different options where you have to select pro version, professional version, and similar to that, you have to go with shared version, which is free for your use for learning purpose. And you can see I have already created a cluster. I will not continue with that. I'll show you how to create a new cluster. Here, just if I click on this create button, I can create a new cluster, but there is a problem. Since it is a free version, you can create only one free cluster within a project. Okay. And since in this project 0, I have already created a cluster, I have to go with new project. So I'll click here, I'll click on new project. So I'll create a new project, and within that I'll create a new free cluster. So name of the project, I'll write project 1. Once that is done, you are by default owner of the project. Click on create project. Once that is done, it will ask you for few details. Now it is time to create a cluster. Okay, and you have to just click on this build a database. Now whenever you do the sign up for the first time, you might come across this screen directly. So here you have to select this shared, okay, because it is free of cost, and click on create. Once you do that, don't change anything. I'll keep it as it is. I'll keep it. I'll keep the AWS as a selected. You can change it, but I'll not change it. So Mumbai is selected because it is the closest to my place. And then you can see cluster tier. So by default M0 is selected and it is free of cost. If you try to create a new cluster, the second cluster in the same project, then you won't see any option for M0. You will see option as M2 or M5, which are paid cluster. So by default, I am keeping it as M0, and the name of the cluster is cluster 0, and I click on create cluster. This create cluster will ask few details like username and password. So I'll keep the username as MongoDB in small case for ease of understanding, and I'll keep the password same, MongoDB in small case. You can see it is same. Just click on create user. Once that is done, scroll down, it will ask you IP address. So by default, I will keep the open IPs, that is nothing but 0.0.0.0/0, and I'll click on add entry. Once that is done, I'll click on finish and close. It will pop up. It will give a pop-up with message congratulations. Click on go to databases, and this process might take 1 to 3 minutes. It might take longer than that. So I'll pause the recording and I'll fast forward my video once this cluster is created. Now you can see the cluster is created. Now you have to click on connect. It will show you 3 options. Just click on connect your application. Here you have to select driver as a Python, because we will be connecting to this MongoDB cluster using Python programming. And here the version I'll select as 3.6 or later. Once that is done, just click on this include full driver example and copy this code. I'll just copy this into a notepad. Okay. And I'll just close this. Okay. Once this is done, once this is done, I have the URL to connect to this cluster. In my next video, I'll talk about how to connect to this cluster, how to create database table, and do some basic operation on that NoSQL database using Python programming. So that's it, guys. That was it. Just watch this second video about MongoDB in continuation, and you will see the use of Python programming, how to use Python programming to connect MongoDB and use MongoDB. I think you got the knowledge from this video. And if that is the case, please do like, share, comment, subscribe, do each and everything you can do to encourage me. Thank you very much. This is APDaga signing off. Thank you. Bye-bye.